Linda Rush, welcome to the Dragons podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today. How are you? I know you're on campus, getting your classes in for the fall. It's obviously been a weird adjustment, but how are things for you this fall semester?
Everything's going really well. I started my new master's program and I'm loving it. And I'm so thankful that I was given the opportunity to further my education.
Well, you're taking a graduate student season this year, and obviously a lot of twists and turns that led to this season, and we'll get to that eventually. But before we get into present day, I kind of want to walk things back and talk about Linda Rush coming up, growing up in the Pittsburgh area, playing softball. So take me back to those early days. How did you get into the game of softball? How did you get involved?
Well, first off, my brother played baseball growing up, so I would always be at the field with him and my dad. And one day I was just like, I want to try to hit it. And like my dad was pitching me baseballs, and I just loved it ever since. And then I started t-ball, and then slow pitch, and then I was 8 when I started fast pitch softball and a travel team. So I've played ever since.
And at what point in time did you realize, competitively where you ranked in that maybe you had a shot to go D1 and play at a high level? When do you first start thinking I could do this at the college level?
I don't know. I think I just always wanted to be the best I could be growing up, and the only goal for me was going D1, and luckily it worked out.
Well, you end up committing to Drexel, obviously, where you've had an incredible career, and the program has had a lot of success over the last few years. But at the time you committed to Drexel, not the most successful program. So what was it that made you or drew you in and made you want to be a Dragon? Why did you want to come to Philadelphia and join the Drexel program?
There's a funny story, actually. In 8th grade, I had a tournament out in Pennsbury, which is right up the road from Philadelphia. And me, my mom, and my one teammate came down to Center City, and I saw the Drexel University medical school and stuff. And I was like, wow, this would be so cool to come here, live in the city, and play softball. Like, I'll have to look into the softball program here. And that was in 8th grade. And I just, like, 9th and 10th grade, I didn't really play softball because I was washed up, I thought. And then junior year, I luckily was like, I need to look into this because this is what I want to do. And I messaged, like, me and Coach Taylor started talking, and eventually, like, one thing led to another, and I committed here. So it was, like, funny because my mom still remembers the day I said that in 8th grade.
Well, that's what led you to campus, and you come on in the fall of 2016, your freshman year. So heading into that fall, as you look back, what were your expectations? Maybe one for the team and the softball side of things, and then two for the academic experience as a student athlete at Drexel.
Well, the main thing that led me to Drexel was the academics, and freshman year, I just was a public health major, and then I changed into a marketing major, but minor details on that. I just love the atmosphere here, and just being on the team made me want to do better with academics and sports because my teammates and Coach Taylor and all the assistant coaches really helped me and pushed me to do the best I can.
Well, you mentioned your teammates and coaches, and it seemed to me over the years like you guys as a group have had an incredible chemistry, an incredible culture as a group. What is it specifically? Can you touch a little bit on that from an insider perspective that makes your program so special and allows you guys to have such great chemistry together?
I think we really feed off one another. So, like, if someone's just fired up over anything, the rest of the team just joins in and hypes each other up, and then coach joins in, and it's just overall an exciting experience. Every day at practice, it's just like, oh, I love being here, and we put in the work, and it's great.
Well, and then you mentioned a little bit earlier, that transition from majors. So who was helpful for you at that time period in making that decision? What kind of resources did you have at Drexel in choosing to go a different academic path than when you first thought you come into the university, you wanted to pursue public health, then you make that transition? Who did you go to, and who was helpful for you at that time period?
A lot of the people in Achieve Center helped me with that. They were like, this is what classes you can take. this year just to make you finish on time. And so that was very helpful. And then obviously my advisor in the LeBeau school helped me as well.
And so that transition probably happens early on for you. But go back to being a freshman, first time away from home, away from Pittsburgh, away from the friendly confines, adjusting to the academic pace of the quarter system at Drexel. How did you make that adjustment? Were there any resources that you used at Drexel? And what was kind of that adjustment for you academically when you first showed up?
I struggled a lot my freshman year just because I was never away from home, but I wanted to. That's why I picked Drexel. I wanted to be away from home just to like find myself. And being at Drexel, I had all the resources that were like available, and it was great because it made it seem like I was home. And I like am so thankful for everybody that made my freshman year a great experience in order to proceed with the rest of the years.
Well, and since you mentioned that you wanted that change, right? You wanted to get away from home. Maybe someone who's listening, who's a recruit for Drexel, maybe they're on the fence because of the distance that they are from campus. What would be your pitch, your elevator pitch, as a representative for the Dragons as to why it's a positive experience to get away from home from a further distance?
I would say just go for it. There's so many experiences in Philadelphia, not with just school or softball or any sport. And you can really find yourself just even walking around in downtown Center City, you can just find yourself and find what you like and everything and explore and not worry about anything. It's great.
Well, on the topic of exploring, what have been some of your favorite spots over the last 4 or 5 years that you've ventured to in your free time throughout the city? You know, Philadelphia is a big place, one of the biggest cities in the country. So what are some spots that you've hit up and have been places that have really stuck with you in your time here?
I would always walk down to Boathouse Row. I love it down there. It's just so relaxing and makes you open, clear your mind. Also City Hall, that's obviously like the best place. And I love South Philly. I walk there from campus, even though it's a little far, but it's still just so much culture down there. And it's so different than where we live on campus.
Well, getting back to, your playing career and the softball side of things, your freshman year, you come out, you have a great season. Off the bat, you break the single season home run record. So take me back to your freshman year. The team starts coming around, not the most team success, but you could tell there's something special with that younger group. You're having some individual success. What were your feelings that first year playing at Drexel?
My main thing was I wanted to make an impact on the team and the program my freshman year, just because I was going to be the starting shortstop. So I knew I had to step up and be in that position. And with everybody in the seniors, there was 9 seniors my freshman year. So they really helped me adapt to practicing and just getting used to the softball lifestyle. And I think that everything that year just really made it an impact on me. But I have this thing, hold on. So my freshman year, it was from my freshman year floor. They write welcome week. They were like, you need to write down your Drexel wish. And so I wrote it down because I was like, okay, this is such a long shot, but I want to do it. And my Drexel wish was become an All-American in softball. Like,
Wow.
and I have it here, and I keep it there because it's for motivation and stuff. But I just thought it was funny to show because I still have it, and it was literally welcome week of freshman year in 2016.
Well, no, I think that's powerful. I think something I've gotten into the last couple of years is the habit of writing things down, things that I want to achieve. I think there's so much power to putting it out there, putting it on paper, and then looking at it every day. It's one thing, though, to write that down. It's an entirely different thing to then have the motivation and the habits to go out and achieve something like that. So talk to me about that process, what the day in, day out process was like for you, the amount of work you had to put in to get to that level of All-American status.
Again, I think it's just with my teammates pushing and motivating each other every day at practice. Like without my team, I don't think we would be as recognizable as we are today. And with that comes along, like people recognize us in individual achievements. So it's really just at practice getting motivated by my teammates to do better. Like whenever I see one of my teammates dive, I'm like, okay, if I next ball comes to me that I need to dive for, I'm going to dive. just stuff like that.
Well, somebody who's been a constant source of inspiration for me and many people probably this year has been Kobe Bryant. I've listened to a lot of his lectures, and a topic he brings up a lot in conversations is that early in his career, it was all about getting better as a player. He wanted to be the best player of all time, the best he could be. But in the latter half of his career, he realized it's not about that. It's more about making a team come together. And once you've achieved those individual things, you realize that it's superficial to pursue that only, and it becomes more about how do I make my teammates better. So for you, and maybe for the group of seniors that you're with and the team over the years, how have you evolved, and what are some things that you've consciously tried to do as you've observed ways to get better as a team, things that you do going out of your way to make sure that teammates and players on that roster are getting better on a daily basis?
Yeah, so this past season, even though it was cut short, we started off really slow in Florida. And then the next week, we lost the game, like last inning, we lost it. So we all sat down in the conference room of the hotel and we were like, listen, guys, we need to realize why we love this sport. So we all went around and talked about why we loved softball and why we play it. Because like sometimes other factors get in the way of like, oh, I'm only here for school, or I'm only here because of my scholarship, blah, blah, blah. So we all went around and talked about like our favorite softball experience and stuff. And I think that really helped me as an individual and my team, like just get back to the basics and realize why we're there and we love playing it and it's not a job and stuff like that. Like I've just, throughout my 4 years, that was just something, even though it was my last year, well, and it just really stuck with me, like, what am I doing? And so the rest of the weekend, we all were so happy to be there cheering and happy. Even in the cold weather, we were just so thankful, and it was great.
Well, really, a lot of really cool stuff to unpack there, and we'll get to a lot of that. I do want to walk it back, though, to your junior year, where, you and Christy in the middle of the lineup going off, Christy DeMeo, but the team really starts to come together. So many players. I can go through a laundry list, but I don't have that much time. A little cut for time here. But shout out to all the players on that roster in 2019 as you guys made a push to the CAA semifinals. First conference tournament appearance in forever. You guys win some dramatic games. Lost some close ones though in the regular season. So up and down. But take me through that season, right? Because it's the first year in a while for the program and probably for you in college where it seemed like it was starting to come together and you guys had some positive momentum towards the tail end of the season.
Yeah, it was a crazy season, that's for sure. And our conference is so competitive during the regular season that we lost a lot of close games to our conference. And we knew in our minds, we're like, this is something we need to work on in order to go to the playoffs. And then when we finally made the playoffs, we were all just like, okay, we know these teams, we've played them all, we know what to do, and we know how to beat them. So our first game of the playoffs, we played Charleston, and we came back and we went into extra innings. We came back and we were fighting till the end because we all wanted that first playoff win. And we ended up losing in the 9th or so inning. I'm not sure about that, and we all were like, okay, that's fine. Like it's double elimination. We can still do this. And then we played Towson that night, and we figured out a way to win. We were losing 2-0 in the 6th inning, I think. And we just bunted and did a sac fly in order to come out and win. And so that is what gave us motivation to do better. We knew we could beat these teams, and we luckily did and got to the semifinals, which was great.
Well, and you go on a great run. You lose two seniors, Taylor Lee and Janelle Ladrito, who I know were great leaders for the program. But for the most part, going into 2020, you get back a solid senior class, a solid junior class, loaded throughout the lineup, and you go into that season expecting to make some waves in the CAA. So talk to me about maybe the summer of 2019, the fall, the anticipation building up to that 2020 campaign, knowing you're going on a trip to Hawaii at the beginning of the year. What was the mindset of that team going into the 2020 season?
I think our mindset was more of we are still hungry. Like, we won some playoff games the previous year, but this year we wanted to win the whole thing. And the fact that we were, hold on, sorry, Siri somehow dictated my voice. Um, sorry. And the fact that we knew we could win, and we experienced all those new experiences, and bringing back a lot of the returning players, we were very excited and very confident in doing another playoff run and potentially winning.
Well, obviously in 2020, though, unfortunately didn't get to have a full season. I know, and you mentioned you guys got off to a little bit of a slow start in Florida. You have the trip to Hawaii. So kind of walk me through the beginning of the season when, you get off to a slow start in Florida, but you feel like you're turning the tide, go out to Hawaii. And then that's when the news hits about the pandemic and the fact that the world has changed dramatically.
Yeah, we go to Hawaii, and we have one of our best practices ever in Hawaii. And we're all like, because we were playing Minnesota and Texas Tech and University of Hawaii, which are very like good top 25 teams in the nation. So we were all like, why not? Like, we're gonna go out and play our hardest. We just had a very good practice, and we're here. We need to, like, we were all excited because we really believed we were going to win, and I still to this day think we were going to. So we were all so excited to play out there because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And then we get the news, which was obviously devastating, especially for the seniors. And we were like, okay. And in my mind, we were like, okay, there's a little bit of hope. We don't know what's going on. But we're in Hawaii. We have to make the most of it. So like the rest of the week, whenever we were there, just everyone on the team would hang out and like go to the beach together and do experiences that you can only do with your team once in a lifetime.
Well, it's also Hawaii. How many chances are you going to get to have those kinds of experiences out on that island? So, but then the reality sets in when you guys probably return to the United States. Well, not the United States, but to Philadelphia. So then walk me through kind of what the 2020 year was for you, hearing that the season was going to get canceled, and then it gets announced you could come back. Spring sport athletes can come back for a graduate season. So talk to me about that process for you, how you decided whether or not you wanted to come back and what factored into that for you.
I think what factored in for me was the fact that I still wanted to experience my senior year with my team, because I accepted the fact that I was going to be done in March, and the fact that it got ripped away from me. I was like, this can't be the end for me and my other senior like teammates. There's no way, like, this just can't happen. And luckily Drexel accommodated to that and really helped me with coming back for another year. And I really appreciate everything Drexel has ever given to me, and what doors they opened for me and everything.
Well, you mentioned Drexel's opened a lot of doors. So, talk to me a little bit about the graduate experience, right? The graduate program you're in, what you're studying, what you're focusing on, and what the course load is doing for you to prepare you for, it's going to be a year, but you're not going to be at Drexel after next year. I know it's two double senior rounds, but, how is this graduate program preparing you for time after school?
So my undergrad is in marketing from LeBeau. And with that, I was like, okay, what concentration do I want to go into with marketing? So I looked and I was like, oh, I want to do this biomedicine and business program. So it's a dual program. So I'm doing some business classes, some college of medicine classes. And so it's very new to me, and it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But I'm just like accepting it, because I'm like, okay, I picked this and this is what I want to do. So it's like great, especially because it's from Drexel, like it's a high-end school. So with that, I'm just going to look into, because I want to go into the pharmaceutical industry, and hopefully after season, I'm going to start looking for jobs, but I think I want to move out west.
Where out west? Any places in particular?
I think I want to move to either Denver or San Diego. Very different places.
You know what's funny, Linda? I have a list of places I want to live, And number 1 is San Diego, number 2 is Denver, and number 3 is Austin, Texas. So maybe we have to compare lists as you start putting them together, because I've done my research and it seems like we have similar tastes in terms of that. Those cities are on the up and up. So I like that list. But working it back to your senior year, now that you're going into what's going to be your 5th and final campaign, how are things different? How are you guys approaching this differently as a team, obviously with COVID affecting whether or not you could practice, the amount of people on campus? And then what are your expectations going into next year, knowing you got a lot of caliber players back on the roster? How confident do you feel that you can compete for a CAA championship?
Oh, we're very confident. Even though this past fall we practiced a little bit, but not with the freshmen, we didn't skip a beat. Like Coach Taylor said yesterday in practice that we shouldn't practice more often because we look so good coming back, refreshed, we're all renewed. So he said I looked the best I have in 4 years. And I was like, I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but thanks. But with that, we wait, what was the question?
Well, no, you're good. It was kind of a difficult question, more on my end, because I asked multiple questions in there. I will say, how is, this fall in comparison to past falls been so different though, because of everything that's restricted due to COVID?
Okay. Yeah. So with the freshmen not being here, it's a little different just because we don't know how well fall is our time where we see and access people we have fall ball games and stuff. And even for me, whenever in the fall, compare any year for me, the fall was completely different than when I was in the spring. I've learned so much throughout the fall and winter. So whenever we get back for winter, we're going to have to really work hard to get to where we need to be for the end of February.
Well, I do have one more question pertaining to softball, but I want to ask you something individually for you. Coming up this year, you're already the program leader in home runs. You're gonna shatter that. I know you're gonna have a great season, but as you look forward, and I know you want to have a professional career in the biomedical space, but are you considering playing professionally for a little bit? Is that on your mind? And if so, what would that process look like for you after graduation to pursue a couple of years playing professionally?
I would love to. I think it would be an incredible opportunity because it's a once in a lifetime thing, once you're done with school, you usually just go straight into the job industry. And I think after my softball season, I'll still have another semester of school with my master's program. So I'm like, okay, well, should I get a job? But then I was like, no, if the opportunity presents itself, I definitely would do it because I would love to say one day, I was a professional athlete for a couple of years, it's very humbling, honestly.
Yeah, it's a lot of good clout to have at a dinner party to pull that one out in a conversation. One final question before we get going, because we're a little cut for time, but I do want to ask you. It's been a Instagram caption of yours throughout the years that I've picked up on. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar. Can you explain to me and to the listeners what "Thanks, Carl" means and how that kind of originated on your Instagram?
Oh gosh. Well, we always are like, wow, this is so funny. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Carl. And it just makes everything relaxing for us. We use it just to be okay, Carl got us here. Thanks, Carl. But we're here to play softball and stuff like that. It's hilarious. I love it.
It's part of the team culture. Obviously, a shout out to head coach Carl Taylor, who's done an incredible job with the program the last couple of years. Linda, this has been a fun conversation. I've really enjoyed our time. We got to talk about a lot of cool things. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.